still no charge.
I see, you remember. Hang on, let me get you. Okay, go ahead.
This is it's connected to the cell phone.
Okay, good morning. Special thank you to, I'm not sure, don't worry about the order, but thank you to Nachman and Dovi and Zeitlin. If you don't mind, I'm going to make the Shiur Lilin Shmas Eliyahu ben Aaron, who was passed away this last Thursday night, who is still today. Should be Zeicha, whatever we learn or inspiration should be just a very quick recap. We've got a few new faces. We're in Torah Chaf Gimel, and essentially Rabbeinu Zal gives us a mashal. The mashal, as you know, mashal in English translates as a metaphor. Mishlei Shlomo Melech had a lot of metaphors. Unfortunately, we're stuck with translations that base themselves on other Makoros, so it's usually translated as a proverb. A metaphor is not necessarily a proverb. A metaphor means that you're going to use something that you already experience in your life. It's part of your life experience, so you don't need to understand it deeply. But all of a sudden, there's an attachment to this real life experience that enables you to have an insight into something that's abstract. So what we're looking at is a very simple metaphor. What's the metaphor? Your life experience, you have all had the experience of dancing in a circle. And the experience is that you're enjoying yourself. You're happy, you're smiling, you're singing. You might be clapping. So all the externals of the music and the fact that you're dancing with lots of other people who are celebrating together, that we called sasain. We defined it as sasain. That's what sasain means. Sasain is an external manifestation of simcha. Simcha is internal. It's not external. In fact, there is no happiness outside of you. It's impossible. You can never have happiness outside of you, because the moment I make it, when my wife is more appreciative, then I'll be happy in this marriage. So who controls my happiness in the marriage? If it's my boss who has to show me more appreciation, and then I'll be happy in this career, well, who controls my happiness in this career if I've given it to someone else? Or when I move to another community, then I'll be happy. So I fall into the American trap of pursuit of happiness, and in that innocently false narrative, I think that when I catch this, I'll be happy. When I learn this, when I'm more independent financially, when I can learn by myself, then I'll be happy. And meanwhile, I'm so focused on what I don't have that I'm not paying attention to any progress I should and can be making towards happiness. So sasain is an external form of happiness. It's the music, it's the smile, it's the dancing, it's even badicha, even a joke here and there. For those who appreciate humor, Rabbeinu Zal was big onto that. So the mashal is people dancing, they're happy. That you and I understand. We also understand the next part of the same mashal, where you see someone standing by the side and he's a bit down. You can see from his facial expression, he's down on himself and probably has good reason for it. He might not be enjoying his marriage. I knew a guy who told me that marriage is not a word, it's a sentence. So it can happen. So here you have this guy, he's down for whatever reason. It might be a health setback, it might be a financial setback, it might be a difficulties having with the children. So the mashal tells us that someone from the circle snatches him and brings him in. He might even resist at the beginning, but you pull him in. Then Rabbeinu Zal says, Vayakheil le'inyan Simcha. Now he's going to tell you the nimshal. Simcha is taking place over here. It's not taking place anywhere else. It can't take place anywhere else. The only simcha you have is in what you're thinking. That's why we said Simcha is the same oisius machshava. Simcha, in the state of happiness, is the exact letters machshava, which means thought, because you can't experience it outside of you. It's impossible. And when I fall into that trap of thinking it's outside of me, then I pursue things which I think are going to make me happy, but that's not reality. So what the nimshal is, and this is what we've got to kind of explore more, is that inside your mind there are thoughts swirling around one at a time. You can't have more than one thought at a time. We talked about that. So in the dancing of your thoughts comes along Rabbeinu Zal and tells us something extraordinary. If you are like the people who in the actual real life experience are dancing around joyfully, then if you've got joyful thoughts and you are in the state of happiness, you can do something which is absolutely extraordinary. You can snatch a mara shcheira. Mara is bitter, shcheira is dark. We gave the mashal of a black dot on a white sheet. A black dot in the middle of a white sheet, and I'm so focused on this black dot, and the irony is that is it showing up on the thing? Here you've got a black dot. Can you see the black dot? The black dot is surrounded by white. The white takes up the vast majority of the sheet. But I'm so focused when I see what do I notice? Oh, there's a black dot. And Rabbi Sachs said that the black dot is the media. It's the news. It's usually bad news. And bad news always manages to grab my attention because it's news. All the white is not news. Oh, my lungs are working, my brain's working, I can talk. I haven't had a stroke, I haven't had a heart attack. My wife, my children, they're safe. Children came home last night from a chasna safely. So all the good news is not news. Oh, so I get stuck in the mara shcheira. And it can easily take over my life if I don't pay attention to the white. So it comes along Rabbeinu Zal and tells me that if we can get ourselves where we are counting the good that's in our mind, because that's the only place where you're going to experience good, if we're counting that, then when a mara shcheira or atzvus pops up in the mind, now you can pull it in and absorb it, and it becomes mahapech. The lashon there is you actually turn it around into simcha. Like in kashrus, you've got 1 part to 60 kosher parts. That one treif part actually becomes kosher. You're mahapech it. It's astonishing. It's not 60 kosher parts and you've got one treif and it's combined. No, the actual treif becomes kosher. When mahapech yagain va'anacha. Yagain we've been using balbim and radak because Rabbeinu Zal, I said it last week, forgive me for repeating, he never says lefi ani astati. I don't know, did you ever see anywhere in the Kutiman or any of his farm? According to my, he never says that. You know why? Because he was the tzaddik emes who was simply reflecting HaKadosh Baruch Hu's das. And therefore there's no aniyastati. This is not a personal opinion. Rabbeinu Zal never gives personal opinions. He's basically telling us the way it really is. So comes along Rabbeinu Zal and tells us, you've got yagain, which means agony. In English it translates as agony, and that's taking place internally. Anacha is an external manifestation of my thoughts of agony. So sighing, groaning, ying, that's anacha. But it's not born on its own. It's a toitzah, it's a product of what I'm thinking. I'm paying attention to the black dot in my life. So atzvus really means anxiety, fear, worry. I'm again paying attention, but the atzvus is more of a state that I actually bring myself to by paying attention to the yagain and the anacha, and by doing so, I can actually has v'shalom think that life is not so good after all. So comes along Rabbeinu Zal and says, if you're besimcha, you can actually pull in the atzvus and the mara shcheira, and it becomes besimcha. Then he tells us, and this is where we kind of left off, another madrega, which he's kind of almost inviting us to do, and that is that way beyond just snatching someone who is in your reach from the circle, so you don't leave the circle, you're still in the circle and you snatch him, is running after the guy who doesn't want to be part of the circle, and he runs away from you. And you pursue him till you catch him and drag him into the simcha, into the circle. So that is something which I hope to actually look at in the Nimshal, is what does it mean that Rabbeinu Zal is now telling us that a person could actually chase the atzvos in his life, which might mean he's got a really difficult marriage, a really difficult kid, or a few difficult kids, a serious health setback, or a financial setback, a really difficult neighbor, a horrific client who he just can't get rid of. He's got to make this deal work for his boss' sake. And there's so many things that can pull me down. And now Rabbeinu Zal is actually telling me, go there. Don't be afraid. Because the only thing I'm really being afraid of is my thinking. It's my thinking that, I don't know if I got the strength to pull this deal off. I don't know if I can turn this kid around. It's like, I feel so hurt by this kid. I can't even look the kid in the face. And don't tell me to love him. That's not going to happen. That's not a narrative that I can do. I've been through so much with this marriage that as long as I just don't sink, I'm okay. But don't tell me to smile at her. Don't tell me I've got to love her as well. I can't. And if I do, it's so insincere. Comes along Rabbeinu Zal and says, no. One can actually turn the atzvos into simcha. We're going to go through a list of different items of how that works. So I want to share with you what we mentioned last week. Rabbeinu Zal says in Ayin Dalet, in Sichas Haran, fake it till you make it. It's an English expression, but Rabbeinu Zal actually talks about don't be afraid to pretend to be happy, even though you're not. You're not over here, but you can pretend by dancing. You can pretend by singing. You can pretend by listening to music. You can pretend by making a joke. You can pretend by smiling. Because the outside of you is Ma'er as a Pnim. We quoted Mesilas Yesharim right at the end of Perek Zayin, where Mesilas Yesharim actually tells us, and the Vilna Gaon said it wasn't a wasted word, not one wasted word in the first 8 prokim. So this is end of Perek Zayin, it's included. And that statement is that when you fake being happy on the outside, you're tivaled hasimcha hapnimi. You give birth to the happiness that is actually inside you already. So our starting point, this is I understand this to be really Rabbeinu Zal's point, because we're going to see it when we learn Chav Daled, that mitzvah gedol liyos b'simcha tamid, you can't say that to me unless there's reasons for me to be b'simcha tamid. And tamid means when things are going right, well, that's obvious I can be b'simcha. But when things are not going right in the marriage, or with my health, or with my finances, or with my boss, or with me going on my own and trying to start my own business, and things are not going well, tamid means there's always so much good in every aspect of my life that it's a mitzvah gedola to actually live that way. That's astonishing. So the default, the starting point is simcha is reality. So we said Hashem created simcha. It's part of creation. Asher bara sasan v'simcha. Hashem created sasain and simcha. And these are really important words. Sasain means external manifestation of simcha. He created you and I with the ability to laugh, dance, smile, listen to music, clap. And in that, we can actually, tivaled, give birth. You are pregnant. No, it's a metaphor. You are pregnant with joy. You're pregnant with simcha. And that's the lashon of the Mesilas Yesharim. Ki tivaled hasimcha hapnimi. You will give birth to the inner happiness, because your neshama is the real you, and that always knows that life is only good all the time. Tov Hashem, Hashem is only good, only. So I want to share with you how powerful this is. It's very simple. What Rabbeinu Zal is saying in Ayin Dalet, in Sichas, is very simple. Your facial expressions, panim and pnim, are correlated, because the facial expressions on the outside actually are correlated to your inside. So when you smile, you actually feel happy. When I frown and I speak very low, I actually start to feel depressed, because I am. And before you know it, my whole body is listening to what I'm saying inside. And this is an amazing tool, gift Hashem has given us, that we can control the inside when we don't feel happy by controlling the outside, which we have access to. I can dance, I can sing, I can smile, I can laugh, I can open up a joke book or listen to a joke. I can actually pick up the phone and speak to a friend and ask, please, you've got great sense of humor, please tell me a joke, I got to laugh. there's so much we can do on the outside that can be ma'or the pnim. So I'm just going to give you an example, and this is really, as you know, it's a uniting theme throughout Sefer HaChinuch, is that when you do mitzvahs with your body, whether it's lulav, whether it's fixing mezuzah, whether it's putting on tefillin, etc., when you do mitzvahs with your body, you're ma'or the pnim, you're ma'or the inside. So, and when you're ma'or the inside, you also cause yourself to be happy outside. So that's why you can actually, if you're happy, you end up wanting to dance or clap or say, yeah, it's fantastic, and you can't help yourself be gleeful and joyful. So to give you an example of this, I'm gonna just dramatize the following. Just watch my body language. I've never been more happy in my life. Everything is going so well. My marriage is perfect. And my health, I've never been more healthy in my life. My children are all on the terrace. I just never been so happy. Now, your response to that is, Rietti, if you're so happy, why don't you tell your face? You know, I can't fake it that way because your mind and your body are umbilically related. It's like happiness one end of the rope and Yagoin and Atzvus at the other end of the rope, and you can pull one from the other. That means by thinking happy, I pull in happiness with my body. When I think depressed, I do. Now watch the reverse. I've never been so depressed. I'm suicidal. Everything you can imagine is going wrong in my marriage. My kids have no respect for me. This is so amazing. I can't tell you how incredibly depressed I am. I'm sure I'm going to commit suicide after I beat one. I'm overweight. My doctor says I'm a prime candidate for cancer and heart disease. Everything is so good. So terrible, mother. Do you understand? You can't do both because simultaneously, because Hashem has wired us that one actually pulls in the other. And please be welcome me. There's a cartoon from Snoopy Dog where Snoopy Dog, I don't know if can you see it in this, am I still on the camera?
Still are.
Where Snoopy Dog is like this, and Lucy comes along and says, what are you doing? Says, this is my depressed stance. This is how I stand when I'm depressed. She said, why are you doing that? Because if you're going to get any joy out of being depressed, you've got to stand like this. The minute you stand like this and you lift up your hand and you smile with your face, you can't feel. To feel depressed, you've got to go like this. The body and mind is wired together so that we can actually pull one into the other. And that's what Rabbeinu Zal seems to be saying here in the mashal. The mashal is very, very simple. The nimshal, you have to grab a little bit more of a grip to understand that in the nimshal, we're talking about simcha. There are thoughts that are going around in your, whatever is making you feel happy, whether it's your wardrobe or whether it's your car, whether it's, those are gashmistic things, but it doesn't make a difference because Rabbeinu Zal will say it makes no difference. Count the small. Your shoelace didn't tear. Count the small. Your button is not torn off. Your coat. Count the small. I used to thank Hashem frequently for the brakes in my car working on every trip because I've done hundreds of thousands of miles over the years in travel, and it only occurred to me fairly recently. I never once said thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for all the cars behind me whose brakes also work. OMG. How many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of cars over years and years of travel have been behind us whose brakes are working? Can I be grateful for that? There's no end to gratitude. Once we start going there, ki le'olam chasdai. There's no end to the amount of good that Hashem is doing at any one moment in our lives. So, why is it not echad b'lev ve'echad b'peh, that when we're faking it, so to speak, which is a dangerous word, that it's not only okay, it's l'chatchila. It's l'chatchila to smile even though we don't feel happy. It's l'chatchila to dance even though we don't feel it. It's l'chatchila to laugh and joke around even when things are not going well in our lives. And the answer is because the reality is simcha. Simcha is the reality. So you're not faking anything. You're only using a strategy, a tool God gave us through our physical body to schlep in the happiness, or give birth to the happiness, in the lashon of the Ramchal, give birth to happiness that's already in us. In fact, Rabbeinu Zal, as you know, we're going to see much later on, Ein Shum Yish Ba'olam Klal. That's astonishing. That means the whole industry of anxiety and depression is an illusion, because Yish doesn't really exist. It's only my mind that is so fixated on this black dot that I literally can't see all the rest. I want to share with you a very simple story. I heard it from Rabbi Noach Weinberg. Did I share this with you? No. So I used to sneak out once in a while from my yeshiva in Tvay Yerushalayim and go to Eisha Torah. It was like competition, whatever. I don't know why, because they're both in the same business. But I would go to the 48 Ways of Rav Noach Weinberg. Alav Shalom. So on one occasion I was there when he was talking about happiness, because he's going through the Memches Kinyanei Torah, and one of them is to be Simcha. So he gave a mashal about Joe. Joe was really down on himself. Everything was going wrong in his life, and he finally decided the only solution was suicide. So he climbs onto the railing of his 24th story apartment, and he's about to jump off, and just then he had left the front door open. The guy who lives in the apartment adjacent to him passes by and sees Joe on the railing of his balcony and says, "Joe, what are you doing?" And he rushes to the balcony and says, "Joe, what's the matter with you?" He says, "Leave me alone. I'm just about to commit suicide." I said, "What? What? You've got a family. You've got a beautiful apartment. What's the matter with family? My wife hates me. My children have no respect for me. My doctor says I'm a candidate for heart disease and cancer. I've got nothing. My boss shows me no respect. I've got nothing to live for. Please leave me alone." He says, "You know, Joe, look, we're neighbors, we're friends. I don't want to interfere with your choices, but could you give me 60 seconds? Give me 60 seconds to convince you not to jump." "Okay, but after 60 seconds, if you don't convince me, I'm out of here. You understand?" "Yeah, I promise you." And we have still got 50 seconds left. So what are you going to say to Joe in 50 seconds to make him not jump? What are you going to say? Anyone? So the guy says to him, "Joe, let's just pretend that in addition to your wife hating you and got no shalom bias and your kids showing you no respect, let's just add on to the fact that you're a candidate for heart disease and cancer. Let's just pretend that you were also born blind." You made it much worse. I'm going now. No, Joe, I've got 25 seconds left. Joe, you made a deal with me. Let's just pretend you were born blind on top of, and now that's it. You can't take life anymore, and you're about to jump. And just as you take your last breath and you're about to spring your feet into the air and die, your eyes open, and for the first time ever in your life, you see full color, 3-dimension, and all the things that you've heard about suddenly are real, and your eyes can see. Joe, are you still going to jump, or are you going to stick around for a few hours? And the guy says, "You're right. I would stick around, but what's that got to do with my..." Joe, listen to what you just said. You've been born with eyes. All your life you've been able to see. But if you're not counting it in your inventory of reasons to be besimcha, then all the black dots are going just to add up to life is one black dot. And I can't see beyond it. But wait a minute, you never had lung cancer, you never suffered from the pancreas cancer, you never suffered from cancer of the tongue. It's a horrific and very painful way to go. There's so many diseases you've not had. Oh, so Simcha is simply paying attention to reality, the good that's already in my life. So let's look into let's look inside the Torah itself. So Chaf Gimel, there's a few new faces here. Should I quickly go through the beginning? I'm just going to do this very quickly. Beinyan hasimcha, regarding the topic of happiness. Al pi mashal. We've looked into the wording al pi mashal, means you go into the mouth of the mashal. Here we've got to dig out. It's not a regular mashal. Shelif amim shebnei adam smechin umeraktim. Sometimes people are happy and then they end up dancing. As I choitim ish echad mibachutz, they snatch a person from outside of the dancing circle. Shehu be'atzvus, he is depressed, he's anxious. Umara shcheira, and he's also paying attention to what's bitter in his life and what is dark. He can't see the white. Umachnisim oisai ba'al korcha, and they, it's a sudden switch in tense, and they pull him in against his will, the Torch Machal HaMeraktim, into the circle of the dancers. Umachrichim oisai, they force him ba'al korcha against his will, sheyeh sameach imahem, to be happy with them. So one of the questions asked was, how can you force anyone to be happy? And the answer is, you can't force any emotion. You can only think. And whatever you think is what you're going to feel. That's why we've mentioned it before. The word leiv, unfortunately, is only translated one way, but in Tanakh you'll find it's got three meanings. It can either mean your physical heart, like in Parshas Tzav we just had it, Perek Chav Tes, Perek Chav Ches, and then Pasuk Chav Tes and Lamed, where Aaron wore the choshen al liboy, against his physical heart. So that's the physical location. Then you can have it as a metaphor, like leiv hashamayim. There's no leiv in Shemayim. That's in Perek Hey in Parshas Ve'eschanan, where Moshe Rabbeinu is doing a quick chazar of Parshas Yisrael of the Matan Torah, and he says, "Ha boye ad leiv hashamayim." The mountain was flaming till the heart in heaven. There's no heart in heaven. The word leiv, vast majority of times, actually refers to your mind. And if you translate it that way, it'll make a lot more sense. I have a mechutin, his name is Naftali Gettinger. He's on his 26th round of Shas. He finishes it twice a year. And when I was talking about this, he came up to me and he said, it's such a dava pasha to him that throughout Shas, leiv means mind. The Even Ezra on Perek Vav Pasuk Hey on the words B'chol Levavcha Lav HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'chol Levavcha, says Ramban and Even Ezra on that Pasuk Perek Vav Pasuk Hey, we say every day, Leiv Hu Hada'at. The Leiv, that's your mind. Leiv Avigdor, which is Rabbi Victor Miller, who I think is getting more and more Olam Haba, more after he passed away than when he was alive. He actually says in Siman Aleph, in Shar Hadas, he talks about Hashivus Das Ha'adam, the importance, the value of the mind of a human being. So he says, Hine leiv b'lashon HaKodesh, the word leiv in Lashon HaKodesh, misamen es koach ha'machshava v'haregesh. It is an iconic term for thought and feeling. I'm not going into it now. In Nichtav B'Sefer, Rabbi Yaakov Meir Shechter, Shlita, he goes into this and explains that whatever you're thinking, that's what you're going to feel. So if I'm thinking atzvus, guess what I'm going to feel? If I'm thinking happiness, guess what I'm going to feel? Your feelings are not independent of your mind. It's simply impossible. You try feeling something that you're not thinking, and you'll see that that's the reality. So now comes along Rabbeinu Zal and tells us that he forces a person to be happy. That means to say, the fact that he's now going to be dancing with you and clapping and singing with you, and it's lots of people in this maybe a number of circles, what ends up happening is that his body schleps in the mind, and it's hard to fake when you're dancing and laughing and clapping and singing with other people. It's hard to fake that I'm unhappy, because in this moment, all of a sudden, I am happy. What happens next? Look at the words. When a person's happy, as ha'amara shechayra v'yisurin nistalkim min hatzad. The mara shechayra, the atzvus, the yagoin, anacha, all the negative stuff moves to the side when a person's b'simcha. You can't have two thoughts at the same time. It's impossible. Rabbeinu Zal talks about this. Reish Lamed Gimel, we mentioned it. Also in Mem Daled, in Chaimaran, he also talks about where it's impossible to have two thoughts at the same time. This is not a philosophical, intellectual insight. It's a huge description of reality. because your mind works so quickly, you can have maybe, I don't know how many thoughts in one moment. Rabbi Rush has a Rosh Yeshiva who's in charge of all the colors. His name is Rabbi Ogrid, I think. I met him a couple of weeks ago when he was here with Rabbi Rush for Shabbos by Eli Goldman, and he said that he used to be chavrusas with Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu, the Rosh, the head of chief rabbi of the Sfardim in Eretz Yisrael. So Rav Mordechai Eliyahu could read 30 pages in 2 minutes. And his chavrusa, who was this Dayan, who's the Dayan for Rabbi Rush's kernels, even though Rabbi Rush has Dayanos, by the way, it doesn't go around telling anyone, but he's got smicha in Yerideyas and Choshen Mishpat. So this Dayan, he learns 13 pages in 2 minutes. That's still a lot. How many thoughts can you have in a second? It's incredible. If Has V'Shalom, a person's in a very dangerous situation, with a traffic situation, your mind is able to make incredible number of calculations from a quick glance at the back river and maybe even a side river, and in a split second make a decision. And that split second decision is made based on a calculation of lots of other factors that are taking place. Your mind works very quickly, but it's not shut that lots of thoughts are taking place simultaneously. Your mind is so brilliant, it will move from one thought to another very, very quickly. But comes along Rabbeinu Zal and tells us that the Mara Shchera can't be with the Simcha. You can't have one thought of Simcha with the Mara Shchera. So it actually can get moved to the side. It actually is put aside. Now when you're in a place of Simcha, which Rabbeinu Zal tells us is Olam HaChelus, is you're liberated. You're in the world of freedom. And that in that world where the mind is not anchored by these heavy thoughts of my marriage, it's not working, and my kids, I just can't take it anymore. Anyone who here has teenagers will know why some animals eat their young. But a pure humor, all jokes on marriage and kids is pure humor, no reflection on reality whatsoever. So I can't have those thoughts simultaneously that I'm dancing and singing. And if that thought pops up, in being in Olam HaChelus, that means being Basimcha, that's the best place to schlep the bad thought into you. And we're going to talk practically, how does that work? How does that actually work? How do you actually run after a bad thought? How do you actually, and bring it in? So we're going to look at that in just a few moments. As I amar shchor of Yisurin, nistalkim natzad. He adds the word here, Yisurin. That's incredible. That whatever I'm suffering in my life, it could even be something that's physical. That I'm not paying attention to pain. You'll see this all the time when you go to hospital or visit someone, Rahman San, in the ICU, or someone who is in constant pain and they're constantly taking painkillers. It's amazing how the mind of the person in bed, when they have someone who's visiting them, that they enjoy their company, that their mind switches from paying attention to the pain to the conversation or being in the presence of this person. It's just a very simple reality. My mother, Aleh Shalom, she had, I've forgotten what its name, the name, it's a horrible illness in the arm, and it's constant pulsating pain going every few seconds. And it was astonishing to me that when someone came from her hometown, Baghdad, to our Shabbos table, for 40 minutes, you didn't see one, she was having conversation with this gentleman the whole time. Not once did you see her face get drawn from the pain. My father was extraordinarily resilient when he was in the ICU and 1.5 years in rehab and hospitals. He had not one but 2 amputations on the same leg. And then after the first one, he had to go on dialysis because his kidneys failed. It was astonishing that all I ever saw him do, as much which could be in the direction of a complaint, was, "Dear God, please help me." And I could see his face would cringe, but the rest of the time he was completely b'yishuv das. It's astonishing to me. How did he do that? He would spend his time reading and writing. He wrote 2 books while he was in. A person's mind is in control of the entire body. And it is possible to be in pain and yet be happy. It's not a contradiction. So comes along Rabbeinu Zal and he says even Yisurin get moved to the side. Aval Maila Yaseva, this is the huge chiddush of Rabbeinu Zal. It's an even higher quality Lit ametz, which means to become courageous. You make yourself courageous. You squeeze out of yourself something that wasn't there before, strength that you didn't have before. Lirdoif acha hamarash chayra dafka. Go run after the thoughts of marash chayra. Lahachnis oisa gam ken b'torcha simcha. Bring it into simcha. So I'm going to touch on how you do that in a few moments, because it's embarrassingly simple. But oifen, and this is done in such a way, marash chayra ba'atzma, the actual marash chayra, the black dots in my life, which are very real. They're not illusionary. This is a difficult marriage. This is I've got a serious setback, health-wise or financial, whatever it is, Has v'shalom. It actually becomes part of the joy. So if you had 20 parts of joy before, and you add on this Yisurin, and it gets absorbed, now you've got 21 parts. If there's Mara Shchaya, which is another 2 parts, now it's 23 parts. That means 23 parts Simcha, so you're profiting off the Yisurin. It's actually possible to switch them around. Just like in the original mashal, a person is running or dancing around. This is an astonishing statement from the Gadol, which we mentioned last week. Gadol means independent. That when independent simcha means it's not dependent on my wife, my children, my finances, my zip code, the size of my home, the car, the matzav in my career, and it's not dependent on anything. So what's it dependent on? It's independent. It's independent because a person can actually take joy from the fact that he did Nagelbus this morning, and it was right by his bed. He didn't have to walk more than 4 ames. He said Moide Ani. He gave his wife a smile. His wife smiled back. A person can take joy, simple joy that I am giving Hashem nachas ruach because I'm getting dressed to go to davening. Oh, I'm putting on tefillin. I'm putting on tzitzis. I'm saying a kind word to my children. I'm putting on a smile when I don't feel like it, but I'm putting on a smile with this kid, and I'm giving Hashem nachas ruach. Which gives Hashem more nachas ruach? When it's easy to smile because the kid is really cooperative and disciplined and really just is a doll, or when this kid is really contrary. I mean, he just asks, he defies everything I say. Why should I? Which is worth more? The smile, because it is so easy to be endeared to this child, or it's so hard to be endeared to child B that when I'm smiling and I'm really, really trying to make it a good smile and give him a hug as well, and go like this on his cheek, instead of a torchacha, which one's worth more? We all know the answer. Oh, so that is helping, that when it's real, that's what the kid's going to pick up on. When it's real, that's what the wife is going to pick up on. That's what the spouse is going to pick up on. Because Chazal said so. It's not Chazal, sorry. It's a pasuk in Mishlei. Kamayim apanim lepanim, kain lev ha'adam la'adam. When you are happy with your facial expressions, and they are reflected in the waters without any deviation, kain lev ha'adam la'adam. So is a person's mind, and therefore what they're feeling, that is reflective of what we're thinking and feeling. So what's really amazing, you look at the Mefarshim there, if I really want to change my kid, if I really want to change my spouse, right, where should I begin? Oh, start with changing what I'm thinking about this spouse. Because it's not my spouse who makes me go mad. Excuse me, you don't know my wife. No. It's not my spouse who's making me go mad. It's my thinking about my spouse that's making me go mad. It's not the traffic that is making me feel overwhelmed because I'm late and now I'm really stressed. It's my thinking about the traffic that I should have left earlier, and now I'm in another red light. That thinking is what's driving me to the point of stress. It's only taking place over here. It's impossible to experience anything outside of thought. And this is a huge liberator. That Yisurin is really taking place in my mind. That's Taradalat in the first chelik. And Daiga, Anacha, Yagoin, Atzvus, they are all products of what I'm thinking. I'm so stuck in Olam Hazeh and Olam HaSheker that I really do think or believe or know it's you who's hurting me. And it can never be that way. It can never be that way. It's only what I'm thinking about you. So what Rav Nachman is I think, offering us is that in the state of dancing, paying attention to the good in our lives, then in LM2, that's when we can most easily actually go run after, what is wrong in my marriage? Well, what could be good about this difficult marriage? So you look at Terat Sadi in the second Chelek, and Rabbeinu Zal says, don't get divorced. Please don't go there. Please don't get divorced. Do your best not to get divorced. That's what Rabbeinu Zal tells us. Why? It says, Mamanavshach, if she's really so terrible, then a person's saved from Gehenna. It's a Gemara in Eruvin, I think Mem Aleph. A person saved. Gehenna is Gehenna. Literally. Because I'll tell us one flame of Gehenna is worse than a whole lifetime of the Yisurin of Eov. Eov did not have an easy life in that 12 months of extraordinary suffering. So is it worth to stick it out? I mean, I don't mean stick it out, but actually be besimcha. That's hard. Rabbi Yaakov Meir Shechter was able to do that. Rabbi with a difficult wife. Even the Chofetz Chaim. I'm not sure if you know this story. It has been published, but it's a little bit whitewashed. But the Chofetz Chaim was 16 years old when he came home Ben Azmanim, and his mother had a new husband. Her husband had passed away, and the daughter from the second marriage, the husband in the second marriage was a bit of a coarse character. That's how it's described. It was described to me by Rabbi Yaakov Greenwald, Alav Shalom, who heard the story from the Chazon Ish. This is how I remember it being told to me, that the Chofetz Chaim was 16 years old, came home Bein Azmanim, and he saw straight away that his mother was not the same. There was something that was. He asked his mother, "What's the matter?" And she said, "It's okay, everything's fine." And he realized it's not true, and he nudged a little bit more until she broke down in uncontrollable tears, and she told him the truth, that a new husband wants to marry his daughter to the Yisrael Meir, who was a prodigy of, he's already a Talmud Chacham, is a tzaddik, and he could easily be supported, and he'll become something special. And a husband is, in those days, over 160 whatever years ago, more than that, in those days, a person who was an almana didn't have much of a choice in who to remarry. She almost have to basically remarry anyone who would be willing to marry her, just for the sake of survival. So she took on a marriage of someone of coarser character, and the daughter was a toitza of that character too, and she was mortified that her own Yisrael Meir should marry the daughter. She was in uncontrollable tears as she admitted what she's going through, and Yisrael Meir said the following words. I don't know how to say it in Yiddish, but this is how it's told to me by Rabbi Yaakov Greenwald, who knew that I don't understand Yiddish well enough, so he told me, "Mother, why are you crying? I'll marry her." And he did. And in the words of the Chazon Ish, he still became the Chofetz Chaim. Who you marry does not decide your happiness or your possibility of accomplishment, because a person could be in a difficult situation, and all that he's being invited by Kodesh Baruch Hu to do is squeeze more out of himself. I'm still going to be happy, and this is not easy. Whoa, that's worth much more. When a person, as Shalom, goes through difficulty or even a tragedy, this is a moment of invitation. There's mourning, that's avelus, that's real, but what do I do after that? Rabbeinu Zal says, I'm just going to touch on a few of these examples. Rabbeinu Zal says, Has v'shalom, person is in mourning. He once came out of in Sarfei Kodesh. Rabbeinu Amar Pam Le'inyan Misas Echad. This is in the second Chelek of Siach Sarfei Kodesh from the original set. Pam Le'inyan Rabbeinu Amar Pam Le'inyan Misas Echad Mibnei Habayis Rachman Aslan. He mentioned once in reference to someone who just passed away. Ein tzrichim hitztaer al elu she'einam. It's not necessary to become betzar over those that are no longer in one's life. El yesh lismayach im elu shenish'aru. Pay attention, be besimcha with the people who are still alive. Death is inevitable. Nobody escapes this world alive. That's a guarantee. But how we live, that really matters. Am I going to be paying attention to my eyes? I've got how long? Or am I going to be stuck on the black dot? Am I paying attention to the fact that I am married? I've got kids. Maybe you got grandchildren. Oh my gosh! Add it to the inventory. The problem is not what I don't have. The problem is not counting what I already have. That's simcha. Ezo asher samech bechelkai. My chelkai. Well, whatever's my chelek, and that depends on how much I'm counting. So if Hashem, a person loses someone, Rabbeinu Zal seems to be telling us in advance, be prepared, Has v'shalom, for a tragedy, be prepared. I'm not telling anyone here, Has v'shalom, to be prepared, but that's Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch actually says it, and as you know, Shulchan Aruch is not a book that I'm supposed to, is this mutter on Shabbos or not? And then I open it up. Shulchan Aruch, I'm meant to be learning Shulchan Aruch in preparation for knowing Hilchos Muktzah, or whatever that malacha is. Do you follow? Nowadays, I have to go to a Rav because I actually don't know. But what happens if Shulchan Aruch tells us how to respond to tragedy? How to respond to difficulty? So do I wait for the difficulty and the tragedy and then look up Shulchan Aruch? Or am I meant to learn Shulchan Aruch in advance? The Rabbeinu Zal was huge on two items. Hispeidus and Shulchan Aruch. Every day learn at least two halachas every day. Kaseda through Shulchan Aruch. So in Reish Chaf Beis, in Aruch Hayim, Rabbeinu Zal tells us, well, it's not Rabbeinu Zal, sorry, the Machaber in Shulchan Aruch is really quoting from Chazal. It's actually a Mishnah. In Reish Chaf Beis, I'm sorry, I should have had it before. Reish Chaf Beis, Birkas Hoidas Hatoiv V'Hara. It's a blessing of gratitude when things are good and when things are not good. Al Shmur Shehin Toives Lai Levadai, when something good happens to a person and it's only for him, then Mevar Shechiyanu. V'im Hen Toives Lai Ula Chayrim, if it's good for him and others, Mevar Chatoiv Yametiv. That we're familiar with. But what about Shmus Ra'is? What about when you hear bad news? Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Dayan HaEmet. HaEmet means the true, real judge. Only Hashem is that. Now, Siman Gimel, Sif Gimel. Chayev Adam Levarech. This is in preparation. Chayev Adam Levarech. It doesn't say tzaddik. It doesn't say Chayev tzaddik, Chayev chassid. Chayev Adam Levarech Al Hara B'dah Shlema, with a complete mind. Like I'm not insane. My mind is completely clear. Ubenefesh chafetza, and he really means it. He actually is happy to do this with a clear mind, and he really wants to. And what is it? The words he says: Kederach shemevarach besimcha ala taiva. He's going to make the bracha b'okdayna emes with the same simcha when he has good happening in his world. Ki hara lo'ovdei Hashem. Suddenly he switches from Chayav Adam, where every Jew is supposed to be Oved Hashem. So I assume it's referring to all of us anyway, because Ki hara lo'ovdei Hashem hu simchasam v'toivasam. It's a reason to be happy when things go wrong, and it's a benefit to us. Toiva. Kivan shemikabel me'ava, because now he's accepting this difficult news about a huge investment that's gone sour, or not good news from the doctor, Has v'shalom, or a child admits that they don't want to be this gender anymore, Rahman al-Islam, or whatever's going on, that a person shemikabel me'ava ma shegaza alav Hashem, because it's not the kid, it's not the wife, it's not the doctor, it's not my health, it's not even my body, it's only my mind, and my mind is the only item I own. I have no control over everything else. I don't control every cell inside my body. That's why we say Vayakheil basar mafli la'asais. I can try to eat healthy. I can try to exercise here and there, and I can try to be under-eat, not overeat. But in the end, Hashem decides my bodily functions, whether they're working or not. So over here is telling us that when things go wrong, for Ovdei Hashem, which is for all of us, he's simchasam v'toivasam kivin shemikabel me'ava ma shegaza alav Hashem. Because Hashem is the one who's doing it. Don't get angry with a stick. Nimsa, so it comes out, shebekabalas razu, by accepting this bad, by saying, I love you, Hashem, you're the true judge, I have no questions against you. Hu oived et Hashem, that is called serving Hashem, shehi simcha loy, which he has simcha. Oh, so it makes no difference if a person's oived Hashem when things are good or when things are not good. I can still give you nachas. And we mentioned that when a person does a mitzvah b'simcha, is it worth the same as doing a regular mitzvah without simcha? Or is it worth more? How much more? Shara Simcha in Orchat Sadikim, Elef Yadois. Is that a good deal? Is that a good deal? What happens if the reason why I've got this financial setback is actually because either in my lifetime I did something not right with money and now it's payback, or in a previous lifetime, and so me getting all depressed and down is missing the point. It's not the person that I went into partnership that has done this to me. Hashem, you brought this about. I even got a bracha to partner with this person. So how did this come about? And the answer is, I can go into the why this happened to me, but I can probably sink myself into depression, and I'll find all the reasons. I should have seen the writing on the wall. My wife warned me. Someone else told me that be careful. But I saw such an opportunity to make a huge killing on this investment that somehow I felt that I'm going to go with this, and I got a bracha for it. And before you know it, I'm pulling myself down because it was a mistake, and I shouldn't have done this. Now, Rabbeinu Zal was uncompromising when people came to complain to him about a loss of money, which was their fault that they were not watching their money carefully. In those days, if you didn't watch your wallet and it got stolen, so Rabbeinu Zal himself would say he would put his hand where his money is inside his jacket or pocket. He would put it frequently, especially when going on a journey, because that's simple hishtadlus. But to actually complain of a loss, this is the real solution. If it's true, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is true and His Torah is true, and Rosh Hashanah decided how much money I'm going to make, it's impossible to lose any money that is meant to be for me. It's impossible. It's impossible for me to gain any more than what I'm supposed to gain. And therefore, I can move on. But as long as I start analyzing and ask, why did this happen to me? How can I ever trust anyone ever again? And I start getting down on it. That's the Yetzer Hara, so to speak. That's the Marash Chara that wants to pull me away from the circle of happiness. There's so much to be joyful for. And when a person responds with Simcha, that's the Shulchan Aruch, comes along Rav Nachman and he says on the Pasuk, Perek Pei Aleph, Pasuk Yud Aleph, 81:11 in Tehillim, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am your power of all powers, that is constant. Hashem Ma'alcha Me'eretz Mitzrayim, who lifted you up, elevated you from the Mitzrayim, Me'etzar Yam, from the frontiers, the barriers of potential. Harchev Picha. Do you know why I took you out of Egypt? Open your mouth wide. Harchev Picha. And you got two options. I can either complain about what's not right, the black dot, and there's a couple of black dots going on right now, or pay attention to the white and say thank you. Harchev Picha. If I open my mouth with complaints, what does Hashem say? You'll find this in Siach Safei Kodesh. It's actually in also Chelik base, ice base. It says, Harchev Picha ve'amalehu. I will fill it. I will fill your mouth. If I complain, Hashem says, you think this is a reason to complain? Let me give you more reasons to complain. Much more real. And now, Harchev Picha, I'm opening my mouth wider with more complaints. When I'm grateful and say thank you, then Hashem says, you call this good? Let me show you what's really good, and gives more reason for me to be grateful. I once saw a great line, be grateful or be a great fool. I've only got those two choices. What is the alternative to Simcha? Really, what is the alternative to happiness? If we really think about it, what is to pay attention to the black? The Shulchan Aruch is telling me, and it's based on the Gemara. It's actually the Mishnah, last Mishnah in Brachas, Perek Tes Mishnah Hey. Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha. Love Hashem with all your thoughts. What are your thoughts? This is what Rav Nachman says in Mem Tes in the first Chelik. Your machshavas toivus hem ha yetzer toiv. Ha machshavas ra is hem ha yetzer hara. It's not an evil inclination, a good inclination, that's okay, but know that where it's really taking place is over here. Because once you know it's thought, already it's much more local. And once I know it's what I'm thinking about people and circumstances that's pulling me up or down, then who's now in control? Who's now in control? And if I'm still struggling, make it a tefillah. Rabbi Shalom, help me. Because the mitzvah g'daylias b'simcha, right now it's really hard. And please help me please help me to see the good in this person who's driving me nuts. I know it's not them, it's my thoughts, but help me to switch my thoughts, because I'm finding it really a real struggle. So comes along the Mishnah and says, B'shnei Yitzarecha. B'chol Levavcha is actually what is the meaning of loving Hashem B'shnei Yitzarecha, Yetzer Tov v'Yetzer Hara. What's the Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara? That's how do you love Hashem with your Yetzer Hara? That's what Rav Nachman's talking about over here. Oh, the Marash Chayra, the Atzvos, Yagoin V'Anacha, pull it in. Pull it into your world of Simcha. How do you do that? Ask yourself, what's good about this? What's good about this marriage? Well, I'm getting saved from Gehenna, that's for sure. She's really that bad. No. Daven, that Hashem should give them better midas, or daven Hashem should help this person be more on the same page as me. Because Hashem Hakol Yachol. There's nothing he can't do. Oh, I'm having difficulty with this kid. How many people noticed that they made a lot of mistakes with their firstborn? And Sefer HaChinuch actually offers that one of the reasons Hashem says, I've got to give Pi Shnayim, twice the inheritance to the firstborn, is because usually we make our most mistakes on the first kid. But what's good about that? Nothing. I messed up big time. No. What's good? There's got to be good. Because Tamid means even with this kid. Oh, you mean if I start loving this kid, if I start realizing decades after I gave birth to this child, decades I thought that they were lonely in school, they were bullied in school, and I had no idea. That they were struggling with Kriya, but they had such a brilliant mind that the Rebbe said he's the best in the class in Gemara. But inside he couldn't reconstruct it because he couldn't even read the words. And I wasn't paying attention because I was so happy with the A+ from the outside learning, but when it came to the actual Feher at high school, I was blown away. He can't read. And instead of me judging and being so down on the kid, if I had been more understanding, compassionate, listening, maybe I would have admired the kid that for all those years that no one gave him the attention needed to understand how to read accurately and fluently. That kid found other ways to compensate with a good mind and memory, but couldn't reconstruct the text. So he might one day be able to go to a Daf Yomi, he'll never be able to give it. So maybe my anger and judgment for this kid could be turned around into admiration, that you stuck out all those years till high school and you didn't give up because you were trying to figure it out, and I wasn't there to understand you. I was so hard on you. Oh, is it possible that this kid could be the reason why I become a better parent now, for the other children at least? And even if I still messed up with this Bukhar, once they get married and bring children into the world, you've got a second chance. You've got a second chance to make it work. I can't resist this joke. All the people came from Helm, all the descendants, they filled up a stadium in MetLife. That's like 100,000 people, 90,000 people. And once and for all, they decided they got to make a demonstration publicly that they are not stupid. So one of the Chelniks takes the mic, and everyone's there. Yated, Hamodia, and NBC, ABC, all the national networks are there to televise in real time the demonstration that Chelniks are not stupid. So the master of ceremonies asks for a volunteer. One of the Chelniks comes up and he asks him, what's 30 plus 50? So he's counting his fingers for about 40 seconds and 35. And we, oh God, this is terrible. This is our chance. It's ruined it. And the whole crowd of descendants from Chelm, they all break out into a chorus. Give him another chance. Give him a second chance. Give him. Okay. I got to be fair to the guy. I got to give him another chance. So he says, "What's 10 plus 20?" And after about a minute, he says, 15. And the crowd burst out and give him another chance. Give him another. You can't do this. This is completely backfired. But with all the crowd screaming, he says, let's see if we can save face. Okay, the third chance. What's 2 plus 2? After 50 seconds, 4. Total silence. And then a few seconds later, the whole crowd burst out, "Give him another chance! Give him another chance!" Does my kid deserve another chance? Of course! Does my wife deserve, does my husband, my children, my mother-in-law deserve another chance? Yes! Give them all another chance. Because that's how Hashem works with us. Because when I mess up with one kid, Has v'shalom, what does Hashem do? I didn't flex my patience muscles, my understanding, my admiration for the struggle they went through. And so what does Hashem do to get me to move my muscles better? Gives me a different kid with a different problem to see, now will I be patient, loving, giving, compassionate, understanding, sensitive. And every time I mess up with my wife, don't worry, Hashem will give you another chance, He keeps giving me more chances. Rietti, I keep giving you chances. And the expiration date is 120. So that's really good news. We've always got another chance. A financial setback, kapara. Always look for something that's good about it. Because there's always something good. Maybe I've been saved from something much worse. A guy was dancing. Not a true story, but it's a mashal. A guy's dancing in court and he's singing because the judge gave him 10 years jail, no parole. And someone said, "Are you out of your mind? You just got a 10-year jail sentence in a high security prison with no parole. What are you so happy about?" I said, You don't understand. I was up for 5 life sentences or electric chair. And the judge gave me 10 years jail. I'm so happy. Oh, so when a person has a financial loss, who knows what is actually a discounted Puranut. Puranut means payback. Achet in Lashon HaKodesh, you'll find all the time as Targum is translated as choiv. It's a debt. Oh, and Hashem gets me to pay my debts through kapara. Oh, what's kapara? A loss, yisurin. It's not to hurt me. It's actually to help me clean my slate. 10 years life sentence, 10 years jail, actually was in his mind a simcha. So Beinyan is telling us, look at anything that's bad, it seems that way, and ask yourself what's good about it, because there's always good. There's always good. I'll close on the first person in Tanakh who was depressed. Who's the first person in Tanakh who fell into depression? It was Cain. That you see in the actual psukim. In Perek Dalet, Pasuk Gimel onwards, you'll see that Cain fell into depression. It's astonishing. What was Hashem's way of helping him? So which is worse? Depression? Feeling bad about not pleasing God because I brought a carbon, just like my twin brother. But no, Hashem rejected mine and accepted his. It was my idea in the first place. And I get really down on myself. And what does Hashem say to him? It's a really strange question. What does Hashem say to him? Lama haralach. Why are you angry? Lama naflu fanecha. Why have your faces fallen? No matter how much anyone tried to cheer Cain up, he was down. Why was he down? He felt rejected by Hashem. Duh, he was rejected. His carbon was rejected by Hashem. Hashem appears to him and talks to him directly and gives him a choice. What's the choice? If you don't let go of haralach, the anger that you've got, and if you don't let go of lama naflu fanecha, haloi im tetiv seis. I'm telling you, if you want to correct yourself and be good, find good, says you will elevate yourself. Vim loy tetiv, if you don't get stuck on the good, you're stuck on the black dot. La petach chatat rovetz. Says Rashi, the Yetzer Hara, chatat, the Yetzer Hara is squatting at the first entrance, meaning the first opening that I give my Yetzer Hara by being down on myself. That's a huge opening. The Yetzer Hara is ready to pounce on me, and he's not just waiting behind the door. He's squatting so that the amount of time it takes to pounce on me is accelerated because in a squatting position. It's going to be a split second before I know it. I'm overcome by this Yetzer Hara. La petachat reves ve'elecha tshukasoi. He is aiming to get you. That's all his desire is to bring you down, literally. Va'ata, last 3 words of this amazing Musha shmuz, and it's really Hasidic shmuz. Ata timshal boy. You can conquer it over him, in him. You can win. Unfortunately, he messed up. He messed up big time. He wouldn't listen to the shmuz. Question, very simple question. What was the question? Lama haralach. How do you translate lama? Why? What's the answer? Rebben Shloim. You read your Torah a few lines before, you'll see why. In Lashon HaKodesh, how do you say why? There's two ways. How do you say why? Madua, very good. And Lama. What's the difference? In English, you got why. No. Lashon HaKodesh is perfect. If there's two whys, that means there are two whys. And they're not the same. Madua comes from Lashon Da. What da mean?
You expect an answer. Lama, you don't expect an answer.
Possibly. That's one way to look at it. What's da mean? The two-letter root of Madua. Das, knowledge, information. Madua, give me the information, Madua, from where this came from. Which time zone is Madua sending you to? It's not the past, it's the past. Sorry, I get paid to speak this way, it's okay. You're right. It's sending me into the past. But Lama is a totally different why. La-ma. What does Lama mean in front of a word? Two or four. What's the difference between 2 and 4? It's not a math question. 2 is direction, 4 is purpose, tachlis. Lema. What's ma mean? What? To what purpose will your anger lead you to? Because when I'm stuck with my anger, guess what I'm practicing? Anger. Modern psychology might, I think they're getting better, but they used to, thanks to Dr. Freud, it used to actually believe that by letting your anger out, you are getting it out of your chest, so to speak. Actually, according to Rambam, Perek Beis, Halacha Beis, I think it is, in Hilchos Deis, by getting angry, I'm practicing anger. I'm training in anger. So comes along Hashem and says to him, you've got a choice. Lema, for what will your anger get you? And lema, to what or for what will your depression get you? Where will it get you? Answer the question. Answer the question. Where will this lead? Madua, only go into Madua. He didn't ask Madua. Hashem knew the answer to Madua. He didn't ask Madua. He's asking about, the only thing that matters is me moving forward into my life. To what blessing is this financial setback going to help me? You ask Harvard Business School. They did a survey. It's going back maybe 20 years now. They did a survey of multi-millionaires. Then it was like 20 million and above. Today that's not very impressive to us. But they did a survey to try and identify the profile. What are the typical ingredients that make someone a multi-millionaire? And what they found at the top of the list, I think the first 3 items, the first one was they failed the most times in business. What does that say? What does that say? When they failed, what did they do? Start again. So they kept finding, okay, this didn't work, I'll find another way, and started a different way. Oh, Lama is for what, to what? That's the question I should be asking. Not Madua on the Holocaust, not Madua on this difficult marriage, not on Madua on the first marriage, not Madua on this kid. Lema, to where will this lead me? That I can become a stronger, better me. And that's what Rabbeinu Zal is offering, that don't be afraid of the Marash Chara. If I ask Madua, I'll get into whole analysis of why the Marash Chara, and who's at fault, and who's to blame. And I'll accuse this person, and blame this person. And there's no end to analyzing that. Don't go there. Lema. Hashem is only doing this for you. Toiv Hashem lakol. Says Rabbeinu Zal, you can read it to everyone, or to everything, or you can read it for everything, for everyone. Hashem is toiv lakol, for everything. You can ask him for anything, especially in Ruchnius. But you can ask him Gashmis for sure. But he's good for everything. And everything that's happening is for me. It's not happening to me, against me, to hurt me. It's happening for my benefit. The question is, what? I don't know, but ask. And your brain will come up with answers. Well, maybe I can become more sensitive with a difficult wife. Maybe I'll be more sensitive to this particular child. Maybe I'll be more scrupulous next time I go into an investment. How can I do that? And it's the Lama that repeating that question, to what is this beneficial? To what blessing is this setback of my health? Well, I could make a neder to Hashem that this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to speak in shul anymore. Please, Rebbe Shalom, I beg of you, I'm just going to complete shtika, but I beg you, take this illness away. Please, I'm still young, I've got kids, I've got grandchildren, whatever reasons. So Rebbe Shalom, so then he turns it into, I'm going to be careful with my health. I'm not going to eat the wrong foods anymore, and I realize it's junk. There's always something, and that's what I think that when we ask ourselves, don't be afraid of the Marash Chara, don't be afraid of the reasons for Atzvus. Ask, what is this good for, and just bring it into the Simcha. Bring it into the Simcha. There's always a way. We all deserve a second chance, even if we're not from Chelm. Thank you for your patience. We'll continue next week. Good morning.
We go on with our
Yes.
kind of set.
Yes.